In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The Internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get set again.
This is Money and Change. I'm Michael Vera with my colleague and friend Stu Shear. Stu, welcome. Another week of Money and Change. You and I have, well, I guess me. I've been absent for the last couple of weeks. How are you?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. Good. Well, I'll tell you what. We've got a lot to cover because, we didn't have a show last week. We had to do some reruns due to an emergency situation. But what we'll end up doing here is trying to cover a lot of information in a short amount of time. And for people who want to find out about the information that's not only given out here but other information, you want to go to lnminfo2015.weebly.com and everything will be there. And that's LNM, as in late night in the Midlands, info, info, 2015.weebly.com. So, as we always start, we always do a disclaimer. So, the information contained in this presented material is from posting of news agencies on the Internet and are not necessarily the views or opinions of the owners of this program. We are not responsible for and expressly disclaim all liability for damages of any kind arising out of use, reference to, or reliance on any information contained in this broadcast. The information provided is not offered as financial advice, financial planning, or for investment purposes. So you want to use this information at your own risk. Now, today, at a little after 3 o'clock from the XE.com currency chart, we have the euro gained a penny from last week. It's now at $1.09 to the U.S. dollar. The Great British Pound is at $1.55. It dropped a penny. And the Australian dollar's been having some problems with the Chinese markets. And last week it was 73 cents. It's down to 72. So things are starting to tighten up in Australia. The Canadian dollar also dropped a penny. Last week it was 77 cents. It's now down to 76 to the U.S. dollar. The Swiss franc is still at $1.03, and it's been that way for 2 weeks. The Japanese yen, well, they're still sitting at 0.8 cents. And the Chinese yuan, which is artificially held by the government, is at 16 cents to the U.S. dollar. The Kuwaiti dinar is at $3.29, and it's held that way for about 2 weeks. The Vietnamese dong, boy, if you're holding dong, it's going to cost you more. Last week it was $21,735 to the U.S. dollar, and now it's $21,823.73 to the U.S. dollar.
So dong is it's in high demand, maybe a little higher, anyways.
No, it's not in higher demand. It's actually going to cost you more to buy a U.S. dollar if you're holding dong.
Oh, then you don't want the dong.
Nah. That's our laugher for right now.
Yeah.
Maybe eventually, hey, it might come up to 15 cents to the U.S. dollar. At that time, it might be a good investment. Who knows? But who knows when that's ever going to happen? The Bitcoin. Last week it was $276.28, and now it's $292.48. So the value on Bitcoin has gone up. Gold, golly, last week it dropped. It was $1134.81, and it dropped some more. Now it's $1099.08, and we've got some stories on gold to tell you about this week. Silver. Last week, silver was $14.87, and now it's $14.67. So, gold and silver are dropping down, probably because it's not controlled by the LIBOR markets as much anymore because they were fiddling around with the currency. And at $14.67, if you got some spare money around, you might want to look into it. You're probably going to pay maybe 6 points above that for a good silver coin, but look into it. Platinum is at $986.99. It dropped in price from last week. There was an article, I believe it was in Bloomberg, about the platinum mines were closing down, and they were going to have to lay off some workers. Palladium last week was $615.21 to the U.S. dollar, and that's for an ounce. And now it's $624.83. So it gained just a little bit. Now, a week ago we had a problem with China. And in Bloomberg, they said that China unleashes $483 billion to stem the market rout. They've had a problem over there, and the real estate market has caused a problem. The stock market has caused another problem. And so their bubble's about to burst, or it has burst, and they're trying to prop it up. Yeah. But what was said was that China created what amounts to a state-run margin trader with $483 billion of firepower. Its latest effort to end a stock market rout that threatens to drag down economic growth and erode confidence in President Xi Jinping's government. China's Security Finance Corporation can access as much as 3 trillion yuan of borrowed funds from sources including the central bank and commercial lenders, according to people familiar with the matter. And the money may be used to buy shares and provide liquidity to brokerages, the people said, asking not to be named because the information wasn't public. While it's unclear how much the China Securities Finance Corporation, or CSF, will ultimately deploy into China's $6.6 trillion equity market, the financing is up to 25 times bigger than the support funds started by the Chinese brokerages early in the month. And that's probably enough to restore confidence among China's 90 million individual investors. And that was stated by BOCOM, B-O-C-O-M, International Holdings Company. The Chinese are trying to fight some panic. And in some cases, the government said, well, you can buy more stock, but you can't sell it, which is kind of interesting. You know, they said, no, go ahead and buy it, but you're not going to sell it. And, you know, if I was holding on to a bunch of bogus stocks, I'll tell you what, I'd be getting rid of it real quick.
Yeah, so would I.
So, you know, and you take a look at China, and, you know, they have a lot of gold over there. They continue to buy a lot of gold. And this is what we're going to get into as far as gold. Tyler Durden had an article in Zero Hedge about which is bigger, act of faith, owning gold, or stocks. And in his latest hit piece, the Wall Street Journal almost tried to actually do something with today's media. Used to do basically once upon a time investigative reporting. Instead, it falls back to doing something the financial media has become quite great at when spinning somebody's propaganda, presenting an opinion as fact. Case in point, Jason Zweig writes that gold is supposed to be a haven amid hard times and soft money. So why, even as Greece has defaulted, the euro has sunk against the dollar and the Chinese stock market has stumbled, has gold been sitting there like a pet rock? I haven't seen pet rocks in a long time.
No, I haven't either, but gold ones, I bet they would sell like hotcakes.
Well, right now, with gold prices being down.
Yeah.
You know. But anyhow, the report came out one day after China lied that it had increased its pet rock, gold holdings by 604 tons, or a whopping 57%. Lied not that it had increased its gold, but that it had done so in 1 month when the price of gold actually tumbled, and lied that its actual gold holdings are now only 1,658 tons. But the truth be told, why it's doing so at a time when faith in China's central planning crumbling as a result of its burst stock bubble, this is how China's SAFE explained the move. That's SAFE. Gold as a special asset with multiple attributes to help regulate and optimize the overall return characteristics of International Reserve's portfolio. From the perspective of long-term and strategic perspective, you know, gold helps with reserve portfolio allocation, safety, liquidity, and increasing the value of international reserve assets. Well, they're trying to preserve some security there, but with the markets the way that they are, you know, China was actually selling off some gold.
Well, what happens when it crashes? Do you think, does China come and say, hey, U.S., we want to collect?
That could happen. Or they basically do a fake invasion, say, okay, we want part of California, we want Washington State and so forth. We'll start buying companies different places.
Well, they can have Washington State, but they got to take it right out of here and bring it over to their end of the globe.
Yeah, well, you know, they have to get through all the Fukushima pollution first.
Well, right.
You know, but you know, yeah, the government that we have here over the years has sold stuff to China, and they've bought up some of the bonds and stuff, and as a result, yeah, they're left holding the bag, and for a lot of U.S. debt. Now for that, some of the politicians that were involved in that really ought to be investigated quite heavily. You can't just sell the U.S. down the river. And that's what's happened over the last, 10 years with the politicians that are there. They always want to spend more than what they take in.
Oh, and it's gone really fast in the last 6 years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What is it? Obama spent, I'm going to say $10 trillion more or $13 trillion more than any other president.
Yeah, and that's just what you know about.
Yeah, that's true. And then you have all these little secret deals like the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the latest thing with Iran. I read somewhere where Iran was supposed to get all this money back from the U.S., which they turned around and bought 100 tankers to refuel jets.
Yeah. So let me get your opinion on that, Stu. I see mixed emotions here between people. Do you feel like Iran is really a threat to the United States, or do you feel like Iran and the U.S. government are kind of making it look that way? And what's your feelings on Israel? Do you think Israel's really an ally, or do you think that they're some evil empire like people say they are? I think the government is. I wouldn't say all the people are.
Well, yeah, you have to look at the total picture of it. For years, there's been a lot of sanctions on Iran. You have a situation where some of the people in Iran don't like the Ayatollah. They didn't like the last guy that was in there, Ahmadinejad. And the Ayatollah is basically controlling it. They don't know what to do. And the Ayatollah keeps yelling death to America and so forth. And if you mess with us, we're going to mess with you back 10 times worse. So then you send an idiot by the name of John Kerry over to negotiate a deal, and he plays the Chamberlain route, like Chamberlain did with the Nazis, basically capitulated everything. And now Iran says, well, we got what we wanted. And the U.S. really didn't get anything, despite what Obama and Kerry have said. Is Iran a threat? Yeah, and I would say the first thing that they're going to do is really beef stuff up. They're going to be able to sell oil again, which means more money coming back in. They're going to influence more of the Middle East because of that. And yeah, they'll probably have a big caliphate over there in due time. And in the meantime, you have Israel, whose people over there just want to be left alone.
I think they're going to strike.
Well, if push comes to shove, the Israelis will probably do it because their existence is threatened. I mean, they have people there that, the citizens there have all been trained in using gas masks and everything else, having little bunkers to go to. And you back them into a corner, and all hell's going to break loose. And it'll be a middle of the night surgical strike in probably, a few dozen places. And next thing you know, there's going to be some big clouds of stuff coming up in the air, and there's going to be a mess over there. Why? It's because, in a way, the politicians over here didn't play their cards right, number one. Number two, Israel's not going to be backed into a corner, and they're not going to put up with it. So some way, something's going to happen out of it. Whether it's sooner or later, who knows? I mean, Obama and Kerry have really opened up a big can of worms. And I'm not in favor of sending troops over there. Far from it.
No.
We've really screwed over our foreign policy in the last 6 years. Actually, the last 10 years or 12 years with the Democrats in power.
Yeah, I wouldn't be in favor of sending troops either because we've done that, and obviously we've got criminals at the helm, so sending troops, where are we going to get with that? It's just going to further their agenda, and So I don't know where we're at here. I see, you know, in Israel, I know people talk a lot of garbage about Israel. And, you know, the fact of the matter is, despite what you feel about their government, which is just as evil as our government, I would say, you have to still take in consideration that there are people there. There's babies, there's women, there's children, and you know, they're small, and they're not going to let nobody just take them out. So, you know, and I mean, imagine Stu being in that predicament where everyone around you don't like you for whatever reason, no matter what the reason is, whether they're good or bad. You know, snakes aren't very good either, but they'll still bite you.
Well, it goes way back, and it thousands of years, because then you had the Israelites, and of course then you had the Arabs, and of course they didn't get along. They never got along. Different tribes over there never got along. The Shiites and the Sunnis, they never got along. It's a complicated thing, and it goes back thousands of years.
It's really none of our business, huh?
It's one of those things, you know, they're eventually going to fight it out. Somebody's going to win, then somebody's going to hold a grudge for another 1,000 years, and then they're going to turn around and get even. I mean, it's perpetual over there, and it's kind of in the culture. I went to graduate school with a guy that was from Iran, and it was back when the Ayatollah took over. He didn't want to go back to Iran at all. And he was successful. He did get a visa over here in the States to stay over here so he could be with his brother. But he said if he went back to Iran at that time, he would have been dead. And that's just the way it is. So, you know, there's some people with sentiment that say, okay, we just make the best of a bad situation, and one of these days things will change with the Ayatollah. On the other hand, some people are saying, well, I want to get out of Iran because of the problem. But it's been around for thousands of years. It'll probably continue to be around for 1,000 years more.
Well, you know what? If the U.S. really wanted to do something, they had their chance when there was the uprising there in Iran a few years back. Remember that?
Well, yeah, but the problem of it was before that, the U.S. caused an uprising which put Pahlavi in as the Shah of Iran.
Yeah.
And, you know, they started that mess there. It's so, I mean, can't people just live and let live, you know?
You would think, but as long as there's greed and it exists heavily, I don't know.
Yeah. You don't know.
I gotta say this, that to just conclude on this, I'd say if I was president and things were really as they seem they are, it would be simple as this. You threaten my country, I'm wiping you out. It's that simple. So, you know, don't be a threat. And, you know, but we've got, if you're going to believe the way things are going right now, I mean, Obama's like, he's got no backbone, no spine, but he does actually, because he's actually working for the same people he's given the great deals to. So, I mean, you know, it's an inside job, man.
Yeah. And maybe Trump can help change things around. You never know. The Donald is out there, and he's going to start making a few people cringe. But, hey, if he's telling the truth, then so be it.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of went off on Facebook a little bit today, too, because I'm seeing people, you know, it's like everybody, they've devolved with their necks face down now. They don't know how to look up. It's always looking down. Oh, Trump's just going to be another one of them, da-da-da. Well, you know, the elections are fixed, and okay, yes, the elections have been rigged, but here's the thing. Well, we've now got a guy who's worth $10 billion, who is at nobody's mercy. He's got his own money. He's got no lobbyists, none of that stuff. Nobody owns him. Nobody controls him. And who knows? Maybe he'll use his good fortune to do the best he can to make sure the elections are at least somewhat not fixed. And maybe he'll sneak in and actually get in there and make a difference. Folks, you got to look up, because I look at Donald Trump as our last hope. If he gets in there, great. Let's see what happens. But give the guy a chance. I mean, people, always looking down. It's like they hate hope. It's like, oh, my God, something's got to kill us tomorrow.
Yeah, I know it's out there. And I was in Drudge this morning. They were talking about the possibility of Biden running for president. Oh, my God, we'll have another Obama.
Biden, why? So he can rub everybody's shoulders? He'll go.
Yeah, that's all we need is another politician with half a brain.
Yeah, and two hands.
Yeah, I mean, let's go out in the backyard, sit down and have some peanuts and beer.
Yeah, exactly.
Politicians.
He'll throw darts. He'll put it up there. Who should we invade today? Let's throw a dart at the map.
Yeah, well, here's another dart at the map. Joe Dew, which is Deaux from Bloomberg, came up with one today. He said hedge funds are holding first ever short gold net short position. The hedge funds are holding the first ever bet on a decline in gold prices since the U.S. government started collecting the data in 2006. Well, the funds and other speculators shifted to a net short position of 11,345 contracts in New York futures and options in the week ending July 21st, according to the figures from the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission. Guess what? It's not rigged anymore, so prices are going to fall, okay? But what's going to happen if there's ever a depression? Gold, silver, platinum are all going to be in demand.
And people are going to be depressed.
Well, yeah, and the dollar isn't going to be worth jack. Even worse. The precious metals are still there. The biggest thing that I've told people for the last, 2.5 years is pay down your debt, number one. Number two, go out there and start building up long-term food supplies, because if there is a depression or deep recession and you lose your job or whatever, you have food to eat. Okay, so you can survive on that. You want to put some money aside. You want to build up, some medical supplies if you need medicines. Make sure that you have enough. Make sure that you have enough clean drinking water. With all this fracking going on, and basically poisoning the water supply, you're going to have clean water. So do you have a Berkey filter, or do you have some way of filtering your water? If you have to live on distilled water, like people like me with kidney stones, distilled water is a must for me. I have to drink the stuff. So, you have to start looking ahead. And if you haven't, I'm not saying it's too late, but if some of the predictions that have come true for a September 20th or October 20th problem in the stock market, well, if it does happen, you're prepared. If it doesn't happen, you're still prepared. You still come out a winner. Just rotate the food and enjoy it. Okay?
And Stu, I've heard everything about September of this year, everything from the stock market crashing to the moon imploding to asteroids hitting the earth to, nuclear weapons going off. I've heard it. It's come from all angles. I've heard them all.
Well, yeah. And, it's unfortunately the rumors are out there. But sometimes, you get some of the financial pundits out there and they're saying, well, yeah, this looks like it's going to be a crazy time in September. And they point to some of the reasons. The best thing to do is just prepare as best you can and hope for the best. And if the stuff hits the fan, then be able to react accordingly. So, hey, we always talked about dead bankers and things like that in the past. Well, we haven't had too many dead bankers lately. Nobody getting shot in the head 8 times with a nail gun.
It's doctors now.
Well, yeah. Some of the doctors are suddenly disappearing that have said there are some miracle cures and different things, and that's been recent. But as far as banks go, Barclays Barclays Bank over in England, and they do have branches here. They're going to close expats or expatriates' bank accounts unless they can deposit, or they deposit at least £100,000, which would be about $155,000. And they need that in their accounts to avoid being sacked by the bank. And it said, and this was in the Telegraph, it said expats in certain countries who bank with Barclays are being told to take their business elsewhere. The bank said it will shut down accounts that are worth less than £100,000 in the next couple of months. And some letters to expats in Cyprus, if I could spell it, I could probably pronounce it.
Don't feel bad.
Yeah, I know. Have absolutely and already been issued to those who are affected, and they state, we understand that you may be disappointed by this, and we will aim to offer you as much assistance as possible during this transition period. Okay. Cyprus, Greece, hey, you have something like the money's no good because the government's no good, because everybody was on socialism. You know, it's like Thatcher said, socialism is great. You're using other people's money. But when the money runs out, and guess what it did in Greece?
Yeah.
And it could run out here too.
Yeah, I've known freeloaders in my life who, you know, they want to do everything as long as you're paying for it.
And we'll get to those statistics in a minute. Lloyd Blankfein. He was the chairman of, and still is the chairman of, Goldman Sachs Group. According to Bloomberg this last week, Lloyd Blankfein is now a billionaire. And for Blankfein, who was the son of a New York postal worker, the accumulation of wealth has been dramatic. He's one of the few current leaders in the big global bank who reached a senior executive rank before his firm went public. That won't happen again anytime soon, as Goldman Sachs was the last major Wall Street firm to end its private partnership. But here he is. He's a billionaire. Well, not only that, but people from Goldman Sachs work in the government. And so Goldman Sachs has a lot of control on the government. Just take a look at, the Treasury. Okay. Anything to do with the economy, Goldman Sachs people are there. And then when they finish up their government tour of duty, they go back to Goldman Sachs. It's just a revolving door. Now, here's something that came out this week, and this came from Christopher Condon and Craig Torres in Bloomberg. They said the Fed accidentally released confidential staff projections. And said the Federal Reserve said it inadvertently released on its public website confidential economic projections prepared by its staff for the June 16th, 17th meeting of the Policymaking Federal Open Market Committee. The Fed drew attention to the mistake in a statement Friday in Washington, and the matter has been referred to the Fed's Office of Inspector General, according to the statement. The projections show the Fed staff expected the federal funds rate to average 0.35% in the fourth quarter of 2015. Economists said that implied one interest rate increase by the Fed this year. The staff projections don't represent the views of the Fed policymakers who released their own forecast after their June meeting. Today's disclosure comes 2 years after the central bank officials accidentally released the Federal Open Market Committee minutes to bank lobbyists and congressional staff raising questions about the Fed's internal controls. In April 2013, a member of the Fed's congressional liaison staff emailed a copy of the record to more than 100 people about 19 hours before the minutes were scheduled to be published. On Friday, the Fed said on June 29th, an updated package of code was posted that inadvertently included 3 files containing staff economic forecasts that are confidential FOMC information, the Fed said. The Fed said it had since implemented procedures to prevent inadvertent posting of internal material. Okay, and they said they're going to take further steps to make sure it doesn't happen again. Well, what they're saying is the staff's forecasts are clearly below the Fed's median forecast for the federal funds rate. And that was Guy Labas, managing director of Janney Montgomery Scott, LLC in Philadelphia, said that. And the Fed officials' forecast released in June implied 2 rate increases in 2015, with the benchmark lending rate finishing the year at 0.625%, according to their estimate. Now, does it change anything for the outlook for the Fed? They're saying absolutely not. And that was said by Annetta Markowska, chief U.S. economist at Societe Generale SA in New York, which that's a big French bank. The FOMC already had these when they met in June, and they published theirs already, so they took this into account and said, we disagree. Well, guess what? If they're saying it's going to be less, and they're saying publicly, oh, no, it's not going to be that bad, they know something is up. Okay? And they're not going to tell us. Well, here's something from Tyler Durden. The bankruptcy of the planet accelerates. 24 nations are currently facing a debt crisis. And there's been so much attention on Greece in recent weeks, but the truth is that Greece represents only a very tiny fraction of an unprecedented global debt bomb, which threatens to explode at any moment. And they go on to say right now the debt to GDP ratio for the entire planet is up to an all-time record high of 286%. And globally, there's approximately $200 trillion of debt on the books. That breaks down to about $28,000 of debt for every man, woman, and child on the planet. Now, they're saying that the only solution under our current system is to kick the can down the road for as long as we can, until this colossal debt pyramid finally collapses on itself. Well, if that happens, and the can gets kicked down and finally it comes to the end of the road, and everything collapses, you have a worldwide depression. Back in 1929, okay, it happened in the U.S., it happened across the world. Mainly it started in Europe, if I remember correctly. I wasn't born at that time, but, it started there and then eventually got to the U.S. About a year later. Next thing you know, we're in World War II.
Oh, yeah, and I think it's coming. I really do. I mean, I don't know how long, you can hold this heavy table up with this stick,
Well, it's difficult, There are a lot of different countries like Belize, Costa Rica, Cyprus, Dominican Republic, El Salvador, Greece, Grenada, Ireland, Jamaica, Lebanon, Macedonia, Marshall Islands, Montenegro, Portugal, Spain, Tunisia, Ukraine, Sudan, and Zimbabwe. Hey, they're on the verge of it, and You look at the wealthy countries are some of the biggest debt offenders of them all. Just consider the U.S. Our national debt has more than doubled since 2007. Gee, I wonder why. And at this point, it's gotten so large it's mathematically impossible to pay off. And Europe is in the same shape. And, you're going to have bailouts over there. You take a look at Spain's debt to GDP, which is gross domestic product, has risen from 69% to 98%. Italy's debt to GDP has risen from 116% to 132%. France's has risen from 85% to 95%. In addition to Spain, Italy, and France, hey, you got Belgium at 106%, Ireland at 109%, and Portugal at 130%. European Union banks as a whole, they're leveraged 26 to 1. At these average levels, even a 4% drop in asset prices wipes out all of your capital. And any haircut of Greek, Spanish, Italian, and French debt would be a lot more than 4%. So, if it's going to be a crash, geez. I mean, how could we get into this situation? Leverage in banks 26 to 1? Here in the States, it's basically 9 to 1. For every dollar you have, you can invest. The banks can turn around and reinvest it into $9, which I think is way too high. It should probably be 1 to 5, if that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of bad. There was something that came out, Washington Free Beacon said 1 in 5 Americans participate in government assistance programs each month. Now, if you take and you go to lnminfo2015.weebly.com and you click on the U.S. debt clock, you're going to see some numbers that will really shake you up a little bit. The U.S. national debt, and it's flying right now, $18,321,000,000,000, 19,000,000,000, now it's up to $168,000, or $57,015 per citizen, or $154,000 and $414 per taxpayer. So that tells you that the taxpayer has to pay off basically triple of what it was per citizen, because you got a lot of people that aren't paying taxes.
Yeah, a lot of people that shouldn't even be here.
Yeah, and you take a look at the tax revenues. We're pulling in $3,149,158,400,000, and now it's $20,000, and it's revenues like $9,801 a citizen. And you take a look at the population of the U.S. That's working is 148,921,344, and the official unemployed is 8,263,292 people, and the actual unemployed 16,420,961 without jobs. Now, if you tell me that's a recession, I'm going to laugh. That's not a recession. It's a damn depression.
Yeah.
So, you take a look at all this stuff. Manufacturing's left the country. You got a lot of people on welfare, some deservedly so and some not. You've got a lot of people that are in here illegally that shouldn't be here. You've got a lot of federal programs that continually pay out a lot of money that for worthless causes. Okay? And I'll let people do their own research to determine, what worthless is. But the debt clock, it's usdebtclock.org. If you click on the button at LNM Info 2015, hey, you'll find it. Also, if you go to the Money and Change page, we've got a report on commodities stocks collapsed just before the last stock market crash. So guess what's going on now? The whole article is there, and I'm just going to cover a little bit of it. This came from before it's news, so you have to kind of consider the source. But it's true with the commodities market. If we were going to see a stock market crash in the United States in the fall of 2015, to use as a hypothetical example, they said, we'd have to expect to see commodity prices begin to crash a few months ahead of time. This is precisely what happened just before the great financial crisis of 2008. And we are watching the exact thing happen again right now. On Wednesday, commodities got absolutely pummeled. And at this point, the Bloomberg Commodity Index is down a whopping 26% over the last 12 months. When global economic activity slows down, demand for raw materials sink and prices drop. So important global commodities such as copper, iron, aluminum, zinc, nickel, lead, tin, and lumber are all considered to be key leading indicators that can tell us a lot about where things are heading next. And what they are telling us right now is that we are rapidly approaching a global economic meltdown. Remember those pundits were saying something about September and October?
Yeah.
Well, gee, when did the last depression happen? October, wasn't it?
I think so.
October 1929. So here's the stock market It's teetering around. Commodities are collapsing. They're actually going down. If the global economy was actually healthy and expanding, the demand for commodities would be increasing, and that would tend to drive prices up. But instead, prices are going down. Some of the mines are shutting down because it costs too much to mine silver or platinum or even gold. And so, it's not economical to do so. And so people are getting laid off. Eventually, that'll drive the price back up because it becomes more rare. And that's just the way economics works. The commodities route that pushed prices to a 13-year low pulled some of the biggest mining and energy companies below levels seen during the financial crisis. Now, over in England, they call it the FTSE, FTSE. 350 mining index plunged to as much as 4.9% to the lowest since 2009. And on Wednesday, with BHP Billiton Limited and Anglo-American PLC leading declines, gold and copper are near the lowest in at least 5 years, while crude oil retreated to $50 a barrel. So prices are coming down. Commodities are going down. Okay? We take a look at the Australian dollar. It's a 6-year low against the U.S. dollar. And what are Australia's biggest exports? How about iron ore and other metals? So that's why they're down to 72 cents to the U.S. dollar. And if we look at Canada, their currency is almost at a 6-year low versus the U.S. dollar. Canada is a big oil exporter, particularly some tar sands oil, which is expensive to produce. We also have, the Brazilian real, or R-E-A-L, real, at a 10-year low versus the U.S. dollar. Why? Because it's a natural resource-rich country, and they don't have a strong market to sell their natural resources to. And then there's the Indian rupee, R-U-P-E-E. It's at a lowest 17-year low against the dollar. This is because manufacturing is slowing down, and there is less development. If the Americans aren't buying, the Indians, the Chinese, the Vietnamese, they're not making things. So if the U.S. isn't buying, no wonder the Vietnamese dong costs more against the U.S. dollar. Okay? That's why it went up.
Yeah.
We're not buying things. And if we don't buy, we're a consumer nation, and they're a manufacturing nation.
And we're sick of buying things from other countries that are junk, just garbage that's being sold to us, namely China. And, what's the point of buying something,
Well, that's true. And you look at different types of electronics, and Foxconn in China makes Apple phones. And I think they also make the Apple iPads and stuff. Basically slave labor doing that, from what I've been told.
Yeah, that's about what it is. It's slave labor. That's why they could, Walmart, they're a distributor for China. And, that's why everything's so cheap there.
Well, but if you take a look at Walmart, as we call it Wally World here, you go out there and you take a look at the shelves and take a look at the products on the shelves. How much do they have? Did you notice that the shelves are actually getting less and less with product? Because they're getting less and less shipments because nobody's buying. You got to buy food. That's a given, okay? But a lot of the other items there, people are not buying. And it's getting scary. It's getting tight. And it's like I've told people time and time again, pay down your bills, put cash aside as much as you can. Go ahead and, buy long-term food. I've been working with a friend of mine, and she likes to take and throw cans of food in tubs. Well, I went over to help her out the other day, and I said, we're going to organize this stuff. Meat products in one tub, vegetables in another tub, fruits in another tub. Okay, and then if you have MREs, which are meals ready to eat, or any type of items that are long-term food supplies. We organized everything. You know that basically on canned goods, you get 5 years on your canned goods. So you have to check the dates on that stuff. Any canned meat that you get, you take a look at the dates on those. The other day I went to Aldi's, which are prevalent around here, and they may be down south too. And it's a German company, actually.
Yeah, we have them too.
And, I was looking in there. Well, I saw some canned hams, and I thought, that's good protein, if stuff goes down the tubes. Canned ham, hey, you could either barter with it or you could use it as, food. You could feed a few people with it. And I thought, well, let's check the dates on it. Well, it was good to 2020. So I'm thinking, okay, I'll go ahead and get 3 cans. And the price was right on that. They had their version of what I call Spam, but it was potted meat. It was canned. Same thing, 2020 on the date. So, you look at this stuff and you start preparing. It's one of those things, people, that if the pundits are right, and we're talking September 20th or into even October 20th or even November 20th, and something goes south, we could end up like Greece. The banks are closed. You can't use your ATM because the banks are closed. They're going to shut them down. The money supply is gone. You don't have any money at home, and how are you going to go to the grocery store to feed your kids?
I would, for me, I'm not rich, of course. My money comes in very small, sections, but
it's minute like the rest of us.
Well, yeah. So, for me, you got some money in there, take it out. Keep it, in a safe place at home or something. I mean, if it's like, say, $400 or $500, I mean, if that's all you got, if you're anything like me, I mean, you're living by the month and just getting by. So, I mean, when the banks close, chances are they're going to be keeping my 15 cents or 20 cents that'll be in there at the time, I hope.
Well, with the FDIC, if there's a problem with your money, you can get it back in 9 years to 10 years.
Oh, really?
They don't have to pay you right away.
Oh, well, 9-10 years, that's no big deal then. I'll be dead, my kids can have it, right?
Yeah, if the bank's still around to open. It's a touchy situation out there. And people say, well, how much money do I want to keep in the bank? Keep enough to pay your bills and take the rest of it out. And if you want to put it in precious metals, that's your choice. I'm not going to give you any financial advice. This is just some of the things I've heard. And I talked with a friend of mine the other day. We were having lunch, and we were talking about the economy. And I said, what's going to happen with your money? And he says, I'll tell you what, it's going to be kept awful close. He says, because when the bank shut down, I'm going to make sure I'm covered. And I said, well, you and me are both in the same boat. You've got a heck of a lot more than I have.
Keep the cash right next to the gun.
Oh, and make sure you got plenty of bullets, I guess.
Yeah.
If Obama doesn't come for it next. And that just brings us up into Jade Helm. That's going on. It's kind of quieted down right now, but you need to keep your eyes and ears open on that. And I've told people, hey, get on YouTube and watch scary. And so we just have to watch that kind of stuff. But Michael, that's all I have for this week. Like I said, check out LNM Info. That's INFO 2015.weebly.com. And you can find a lot of information there, especially if you're looking at how to store food for an emergency or prepping for disaster. There are videos there. It shows you how to invest $20 a month to build up your food pantry. There's a list of 10 things that you need to do as far as rotating food, having backups, find comfort in little things, make sure that you have plenty of spices on hand to take bland food and make it more palatable. Make sure that you remember the basics: cooking oil, flour, cornmeal, salt, sugar, spices, baking soda, things like that. Oh, and the big thing, always remember toilet paper. If you buy a lot of toilet paper, number one, it's not going to go bad as long as it's in the package. That's number one. And number two, you're always going to have it when you need it. And number three, it's a great bartering deal, because if a neighbor comes over and it's in a depression and they have run out of toilet paper, boy, can you work a deal with them. Okay? Trust me. Toilet paper is a big commodity at that point, And take a look at pasta and rice and beans. Rice and beans, you need 300 pounds of rice and 300 pounds of beans for each person per year. So, that's out there. So I'm just throwing out some things for people to remember. And, another thing to remember is please, 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 please donate to LNM, Late Night in the Midlands. That's what keeps us on the air. I donate my time and my research time to the show. I don't get paid. And that's just my gift to everybody out there that listens to the show. So please donate to the show to keep it on the air. And with that, Michael, that's all I've got for this week. And next week I'll have some more information.
All right, Stu. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here and doing what you do. And it's always a pleasure doing this show with you. So thank you very much. So, with that, folks, I thank you all so much for joining us here for Money and Change on the L&M Radio Network. As always, keep your eyes posted to the sky. Keep your ears posted to this broadcast, because you never know what you might learn. So, for Stu, for myself, we bid you a great Sunday night. And don't forget, listen to Late Night in the Midlands tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Jay Hansen is my guest on Late Night in the Midlands. We're going to talk about possession, the paranormal, E.T. We got a really good week planned, so go check out the schedule over at latenightinthemidlands.com. And folks, have a great night.
The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.